today, it means actually something slightly different than maybe before COVID, right? Because we're now living in a world which has very high likelihood of continuous disruption, unplanned things happening, uncertainty, so we have to constantly pivot. So that means that a high-performing supply chain needs to be able to stretch, to be super agile while still being quite resilient, being able to actually manage these unforeseen things without too many kind of standstills or higher costs. A big prohibitor, I think, for many companies is the fragmentation, both internally within their own companies, across different data sources, but also across different functions and operations. But more importantly, it is supply chain stretches beyond your own company. So you have to integrate and collaborate with parties outside. And that means you have to integrate data from them. You have to integrate processes from them in order to have an end-to-end view. And that's where many of them fail. What we saw in a recent survey where we actually asked companies these questions, what we could see is that number one, higher performing companies already had a very good setup in terms of sharing data and information as well as processes internally. So about 81% actually said that they're quite good at that already themselves. But then the high-performing ones went a step further and actually extended that to other parties outside, meaning they had one version of the truth, sharing data across the different parties. They were able to overcome company handoffs, which often is also a reason for friction. And they were able to overcome those silos between the different parties. And I think that's the three things really what sets those apart. I think what is really important is to agree upfront what is the outcome we need to achieve, right? And that the customer can define very clearly, okay, this is what I need to achieve towards my own customers, and the service provider can also then understand, okay, what does it take to achieve that outcome? And then build that solution together to achieve that outcome, either through data integration so that visibility data points from tracking the shipments come into the system of the customer and the customer can pair that with his own data and then you get an end-to-end picture. Or maybe it is something about decision making, diverting cargo according to certain decision-making points, whatever it might be, right? But if you have that up front, then you're both parties working towards the same goal. And I think that's the type of partnership that requires a certain amount of trust up front. And speaking of my own experience, I mean, we have customers who have been with us for a long time, and we do best when we actually really understand deeply how their supply chain outcomes work and what they need, and then build towards that and execute towards that.